we doing?
We should be in 1 second.
How do you know when you're live?
When people put the comments in.
Oh, really? But
I
it
just watched
says...
the comments. Alright,
Oh,
now
there
we
we go.
are. What's going on, guys?
What's going on, guys?
See, I always give people a little, because they're crazy. What's up? What's up? What's up?
Let's do this.
Who's this dude? You don't know Ricky? This is Ricky.
What's going on,
First
guys?
link in the description. You didn't watch my other video with him? I'm disappointed. It's like the thumbnail guy. They remembered.
I'm Rich AF. I like that. What's going on, guys? I hope you guys are having a, what is it, a Monday?
It's Monday.
Yeah, I
The
hope
best day.
Oh, and it's a little delayed. That thing's freaking me out. Hope you guys are having an amazing Monday. Came to visit Tanner here for a couple days. If you guys don't know me, there's so many people that are tuning in saying what's up. Right? Penny Stock Man, Oscar, what's going on, dude?
The thumbnail guy.
But Tanner kind of came up to me and he said that he has a series of subscribers and I like calling them part of your team, right? He has people part of his team that always ask questions about real estate. I have a couple investment properties, so I thought it'd be pretty cool to make a video with Tanner talking a little bit more on how I personally invest in real estate and giving you guys my approach. My approach is a little bit more realistic. It's a little bit more conservative. I do want to let you guys know I am not a professional real estate investor. I do this as, I do have a series of different investment properties within Gilbert, Arizona. And I'm just going to be talking to you about how I personally look at an investment property. It's going to give you guys like a very just vague understanding on kind of like my whole search criteria. And if you guys know anything about me, it always comes down to, when it comes down to investing in anything, you always want to make sure that you understand the market that you're getting into. So it comes down to understanding the market that you want to get into, having a plan when going in, right? So understanding like your risk and being able to manage your risk and only investing in what it is that you understand. And then once you have a plan and once you have certain criteria that meets the type of property that you want to invest in, then you just go with it. So we're going to give you a very simple breakdown on how I take this approach, and I hope you guys enjoy it. But most importantly, let's go ahead and give it a thumbs up for Tanner.
There we go.
And just give him a thumbs up for making this video possible, because if it wasn't for him, I probably wouldn't be making this video. So I really do hope that you guys enjoy. But most importantly, guys, when it comes down to anything, just continue working as hard as you can and being the most knowledgeable in that specific market. Always have a plan and then go for it. So
for those of you that don't know, Ricky owns three right now?
Working
4?
on the 4th.
Okay. He owns 3, working on a 4th real estate investment properties, right? And he's 22.
Yeah.
So we can learn a little bit. And as you know, I'm kind of looking to start mine. He's looking at more properties. I'm starting to look at properties. So we're going to go over kind of what he looks for, kind of the whole breakdown, and we're going to go kind of step by step through it all. So let's get started. And we're not going to look at comments. We will look at the end. It won't be super long. We'll look at the end. We'll answer all questions at the very end. So make sure you stick around. And you want to jump into this?
Let's do it. Is it sharing the screen?
Yeah, it's sharing the screen.
Dude, I'm not used to this. But
Here,
okay.
wait, click here and you can see.
Right here?
So, right here. See? Yeah, so this is what it looks like.
Okay.
So we're in the top right.
That's us.
So
That's
we're
live.
good.
All right. Thank you guys again. So this is, again, a very, you guys all have access to Zillow. So I don't necessarily use Zillow, so I'm going to give you guys a better understanding on how I take this approach. So I am partnered with a real estate agent and I'm partnered with a lending company. So you guys can all do the same thing. And the reason that I recommend that is you always want to make sure that you can get a professional advice when it comes down to someone that has a true understanding of what it is that you're investing in. Someone that you trust, someone that's willing to take time out of their day to really make it happen. Edgar is my real estate agent. He's an amazing guy and is always willing to go out of his way to make a deal happen. And that's why I've continued to work with him, and that's why I trust him as my real estate agent. Now, when it comes to my lending company, again, Edgar introduced me to that specific lending company, and now I have a relationship built with them where they know what my plan is. My plan is usually to buy a house every 6 months, and that's just the specific plan. It doesn't mean that I have to force the purchase in 6 months. It just comes down to having a goal and working towards it. Doesn't mean that if the deal isn't there, I'm not going to force the purchase. But that's one of the first things that I want to start off. I usually don't always filter through Zillow. I have MLS, or he sends me emails that meet certain criteria of the houses when it comes down to residential investment properties that I'm looking for, or just sole investment properties when it comes to like a multifamily home or a different apartments or something like that. So there's two different filter options that I have within MLS that Edgar helps me out with. I don't personally use Zillow, but to give you guys access to this, I just want you guys to see it comes down to the same thing. It just means that you guys have to do a little bit more legwork rather than having these houses being sent to you. Then you guys just simply have to go and look for them. But it's very simple. So, and I'm going to talk to you guys about the criteria. So the criteria that I like to look for, again, this is my approach. In no way does this mean that this is the approach that you guys have to take. But I'm based in Arizona. I'm a student at ASU Polytechnic, and I like to focus and I manage my own properties with my property management company. So I want to make sure that they're within my area and they meet my criteria. One of the biggest things is I like to look for homes that are less than $300,000, and the reason why, when it comes down to being a residential property or when it comes down to being a investment property, with the dollar value of $300,000, I feel based on that certain dollar value, there's a lot of demand there. So I'm known as the guy that trades stocks, but I'm also I try to implement what it is that I know about trading stocks when it comes down to investments. It's just the same concept but a different market. So you want to make sure that the market that you're buying in or the price range that you're buying in, that the demand and the volume is there. Understanding that 300,000 isn't anything crazy where if you're like Tanner looking for $1 million house, that might be a little bit more difficult to find a good deal because the demand isn't necessarily there, right? People aren't willing to fluctuate on the price too much. Now, when it comes down to the houses below 300,000, the demand is there because that's where a majority of the market within Arizona is. And again, that's my market. It's going to be completely different based on where you're based at, and that's why I recommend for you guys to get in contact with a real estate agent because you can get a better understanding on where the demand is within your specific marketplace. So let me tell you guys why that's important. Just in case there is a correction or just in case I need to get rid of that property, I want to make sure that the demand or the volume is there. Therefore, if I need to cut my losses or if I need to sell the house, I want to make sure that I can just sell it. And it needs to be in a price range where there's a lot of volume and a lot of demand. And that's why I focus in that $300,000 range. Now let's kind of get into a little bit more. This is more of the residential side. So we're going to do a filter. So I have this, so it's going to be up to, and I'm going to change this. I put 350, but that was Tanner telling me, no, that was not Tanner. Tanner's just the baller, so it's kind of hard to, no, just kidding. Well, I'm not kidding about him being a baller. He definitely is, but.
You see the real money right there?
Guys.
It's real.
It's real. But let's focus on, I like to focus on houses that are 4 bedrooms, and it's just because when it comes down to my properties, I don't rent them out to families. I rent them out to students and at a per room basis, giving me a better return per property. And that's just the approach that I take. I manage them myself. It is a little bit more difficult to manage them that way, but I build a certain value for the specific houses that the value is there and the students are willing to live there, right? Just giving you a very simple example on why. So 4 bedrooms, meaning that I have 4 potential, right, just sources of income within that one unit. And then moving on to the home type, let's leave it at, let's do that. And then click, okay, so all the filters went through and we're going homes for you. Let's go from cheapest to most expensive. So again, this is like a little, I use this little arrow and it kind of filtered everything within that area. And let's take a look. So to give you guys a breakdown, for the 4 bedroom, let's see, I really like focusing on newer homes. So I'm going to give you guys a very simple example, and let's do this one. This one's cheap. Okay, so this one's $210,000. Estimated mortgage is $792, and the reason that it's 20% down, 40, that's perfect. It doesn't mean that I have to do anything. One of the things that I've noticed, if you guys saw my most recent video, I put an offer on a 4-plex, and because I'm in such a competitive area right now within within Arizona, my deal didn't go through. It actually sold above what the actual asking price was, which is a very common thing going on right now in Arizona. Therefore, this house is asking $210,000. The Zestimate, which isn't completely accurate, it's $212,000. You would most likely, again, want to partner up with a real estate agent because they can tell you the certain comps or previous listings within the past 30 to 60 days that sold, which can give you a better understanding on what your house is worth. And again, your house is going to be appraised due to your lender wanting to make sure that the house at least has that value. And getting a little bit more of a breakdown, you can get a little bit more into it. Again, this is going to be more of an investment property. So looking at this specific value, $210,000. I know that my monthly expense after putting $42,000 down is going to be this is kind of low. When it comes to an investment property, I would say try to shoot for a 4.8% return based on what I was looking at. So, and I'm going to move it to 200,000. Let's just make it a nice little number, 754. That looks good. So when it comes down to taking that approach, you have a 4-bedroom, and it's within the area that I want to manage. It's actually pretty close. I don't know if I should actually say that. It's pretty close to my property, but understand 2 things. So first of all, you have to get pre-qualified to make sure that you can at least qualify for the remaining amount of the loan. And you have to make sure that you have the capital available. So something that I like to touch base on is for all those that are working like really hard, especially for capturing you at a very young age, you have to understand that you don't need to be making an enormous amount of money to actually buy your first investment property. I actually do want to give a shout out to one of the people that I end up meeting up with. He didn't make an enormous amount. I'm not going to disclose the figure that he made. But let's say it's, if you guys watch one of my other videos, it's less than the average American within the United States. So that's about 52,000. But the thing that this guy did so well was he knew the importance of saving money. And he knew the importance of saving money to not just to save money. So it's not save to save, but it's save to invest or to take advantage of an opportunity once it presents itself. And that's one of the most important things. He worked so hard. He was consistent. He kept his costs low. And then when this opportunity of this investment property presented itself, he was working for about 3 years. Again, not making an enormous amount. He had a little bit over $60,000 saved. So for those that are thinking, $40,000 is not very realistic, it comes down to understanding that yes, it is going to be more difficult to save and to sacrifice to not being going out and partying and to working hard and to be driven by your passion. And understanding if this is something that you want to pursue, then it comes down to you, seeing the potential, setting up a plan on how you're going to get there, and sticking to your plan. So it comes down to consistency, being disciplined, and understanding that is this a realistic goal that you can approach. Understanding that $40,000 for the specific, opportunity that may, present itself at age 22, I don't think is very unrealistic, especially if we're capturing you at a young age. Those that are, taking this course that are like 14, 15, 18, regardless of what your age is, even if you're like, 50, whatever it is, just know that if the numbers make sense, if you can save a certain dollar amount, if it takes 2 to 4 years, it is possible. And that's one of the biggest drawbacks that I think I get from people is that, okay, well, how am I supposed to save $40,000? Again, work hard and save. Keep costs low, and if you have a plan and you want to achieve it, then you have to be driven by your passion and make it worth that sacrifice. So again, now kind of going back into it, $40,000 is what it's going to cost you to take advantage of this opportunity, and then getting pre-qualified. So having a 2-year work history. Understanding that let's say you do end up getting pre-qualified. So your loan amount is going to be $160,000 at a rate of $754. So that's going to be your monthly expense. That's pretty much your quota if you want to think of it that way. So understanding that I rent it out per room, and I rent out my average room for about let's say $525 per room. On average, including the master and including all the other rooms. So it could be $500 and then maybe $600 for the master. So regardless, average of $525. When it comes down to how it presents itself, with a cost of $40,000 and the revenue of $525 per room, you would be bringing in. Actually, the numbers are a little bit different, so I'm gonna have to. The numbers are a little bit different, so I'm gonna have to do this. It's $3,150 is what. No, it's not. 525 times 4. Is $2,100. So $2,100 is what you're going to be bringing in monthly gross, right? That's what you're going to be bringing in monthly, and then you're going to subtract that to your costs. And again, this is just a very simple example. I know that there's more costs when it comes down to actually owning the property, but again, just giving you a very simple breakdown of $754 of just the gross return and then the expenses. So $754 leaves you with a profit of $1,346. Times 12 is $16,152 a year. That's not including what you're paying towards principal when you're actually paying for the mortgage of $754. That's not including all the write-offs that you have when it comes down to the upgrades that you do on the houses and the depreciation that you're able to do within the initial property. I don't want to get too much into that, but it comes down with a very simple plan of understanding with a $40,000 investment, you can make $16,152 net a year, not including the expenses and not including towards the principal, which if you divide that by the initial investment, so the actual dollar value that you have invested in this property, is 40% return within your initial investment. So about maybe 2 years and 3 months, you will see your complete initial investment of the $40,000 to be returned within your initial investment, and therefore, if the property value is now instead of instead of the $210,000 valuation that it has right now, let's say it's later appraised at $250,000. That doesn't mean that because you bought the house at $200,000 that you've only made $50,000, but because you've already made the $40,000 back within 2 years. So if you're in Arizona, if you live in this property for more than 2 years, you don't have to pay expenses or you don't have to pay taxes on the return because you've lived in that property for the 2 out of the 5 years. And then understanding that, in effort for the house to actually appreciate in value, then it comes down to understanding that that's the whole point people invest in real estate, because of the appreciation that can occur. And then the monthly, the residual income when it comes down to like actually owning the property is pretty nice as well. So when it comes down to the breakdown, I think I kind of got a little bit off topic, but again, it comes down to buying within a market price that I think there's a lot of demand in. It comes down to being realistic, that this is something that I do want to touch base on, is if the market does take a correction, like a lot of us are going to be talking about, or you guys might be bringing up right now, understand that you want to buy within a market that if the market does take a correction and if all of a sudden you do want to cut your losses, then you could sell, right? Understand that, but also understand that the housing market will always pick back up. Therefore, if you never sell, then you never actually see a loss. Therefore, what's the worst case scenario that could happen with this property? Well, understanding that your monthly expense is $754. Out of the 4 bedrooms, you'd simply need to rent out 2 bedrooms to still see a return within the overall, per month and then per year. So understanding that your risk, when it comes down to managing your risk, your whole entire goal to at least break even is at least renting out 2 of the 4 bedrooms, throughout the year, and making sure that, and that's not even including towards what you're paying towards principal, but it comes down to understanding like worst case scenario, if the demand isn't really there for you to be able to rent out your room, you could at least rent out 2 rooms and then you'll break even. So when it comes down to managing your risk, is the risk that great, right? And that's just, it's up to you if you guys see the potential in that. And then once you guys do, it comes down to, again, just, do you want to say anything?
No, I have questions for the end.
Okay.
So you finish that.
Questions for the end. Okay, so the biggest thing is, the things that I like to focus on is focusing on a market that I know the demand and the volume is always there. Understanding that I have a plan of sticking to certain criteria when it comes to residential properties that I try to buy, for them to be at 4 to 5 bedrooms, again, because I can make the most out of those properties. And I try to, with these residential properties, try to buy them at an average price of $200,000 to $250,000 when it comes down to these residential properties. When it comes down to the actual investment properties with the fourplexes, maybe around $250,000 to $300,000, again, because it comes down to the demand or the volume being pretty high within that area. So it might be different for your specific marketplace. Understand that it's very important to save to invest, not save to save. So when it comes down to right now, you guys working very hard with your normal jobs, doing the Amazon sales, whatever it is that you guys are doing to hustle and try to build a life or foundation for yourself, have a plan on what you're working towards, and then be driven by the passion and by the end goal. If you have a plan and it makes sense and the numbers make sense and it's realistic, then it comes down to you just putting down the hard work and actually making it happen. Because if you don't make it happen, then it does. I don't want to say that it's your fault, but everyone is throwing certain obstacles, right? It comes down to the entrepreneur, the investor that takes advantage of certain opportunities and overcomes those obstacles that can be labeled as a successful entrepreneur. So other than that, I'm not too sure what else you guys would like me to talk about. Consistency, sticking to your plan, and then safe to save.
What kind of other expenses are you realistically looking at, like insurance, or do you have them pay for like electric, gas, water, trash, and everything, or?
Yeah, so when it comes down to the property being like at the average rate of $525, saying big rhymes in that. When it comes down to the property being rented out for the $525, because of the area that I'm in, I usually get the utility bill, and then I split it up between the 4 or 3 tenants that are living within that property. And it's still comparatively pretty affordable because I usually rent them out to ASU students. So compared to them like living at Tempe or something like that, paying $700 plus utilities, it's just way more affordable. And I usually try to focus on entrepreneurial students, and they're usually willing to pay that certain dollar amount.
Okay. Do you guys have any questions? Let's see what they're saying. Dude's amazing. Blink if you're in danger. I'm listening. I don't know as much as he does about real estate.
Oh man, I'm annoying people. He talks too much.
They just want Amazon, that's why. How did you afford your property? That's what they want to know.
How did I afford my property? So when it came down, I bought my first investment property. It was my first primary residence, like my first house that I bought, and I bought it for myself, and then I rented the remainder rooms to some buddies that I had at the ASU Polytechnic campus. But again, I had a stable job, and I was doing different things on the side. But it came down to having and working towards having that foundation. So realistically, knowing that I had to have a stable income, saving money, and then taking advantage of an opportunity when it presented itself. I did a very good job in partnering up with my real estate agent and my lending company at a very early age. So being able to do that and then being able to set up a plan for me gave me a better understanding of what it is that I needed to do to achieve that goal of buying my first house by age 20. And that's why I always encourage you guys, these real estate agents and these lending companies always want to work with you. It just really comes down to you reaching out to them. They're always willing to help, and the more you present yourself to them, you're going to find someone that wants to help you out. So that's really just it. So working towards a goal and getting a real understanding on how to get there, and then making it happen.
Yeah, and what you guys got to realize is Ricky's not buying like multi-million-dollar properties right now, renting them out for like $20,000 a month. It's starting smaller. You don't have to have a ton. Like the example, it's $40,000. What if you went with a partner? $20,000. You can save that in a year if you wanted to. Mm-hmm. And he was doing his multiple streams of income before when he started.
Yep.
Let's see. What would be your criteria for looking to sell a house, or when should you not sell a house after you've bought it?
Okay, so my first property, especially with the housing prices, and again, guys, I want you guys to know I don't want you guys to just take my advice because I'm not a professional at this, but I'd love to just share my whole thought process. So something that I'm thinking about right now is one of my properties, I've had it and I've lived in it for more than 2 years. Therefore, I can sell it and not have to pay taxes on the earnings, or the net earnings. And understanding that the market price being where it's at right now, I'm up almost $100,000 on what I actually bought my house for. So understanding that, should I take advantage of this opportunity, sell the house, and then see if there's a correction within the market, and then take advantage of that specific opportunity, or if it comes down to taking what it is that I've made off the initial, what I actually can make off the property, and reinvesting it into businesses or the different people that I'm partnered with and stuff like that. So it really comes down to you and in the position that you're in, and if you do have the ability and you do have a plan that presents a higher return or more opportunity, then it comes down to you to take advantage of it. So. Yeah.
Sometimes how much money to get started in real estate, it varies a ton. I mean, you can find a $100,000 property, get started, put 20% down, so $20,000, get a partner, $10,000.
Definitely. There's just so many different ways on being able to do it now, and it comes down to the location that you're in, because market price, like people say, like real estate, it's a location. So Arizona is not very expensive. That's one of the main reasons that I chose to move out there, because I knew I could start investing in property at a very early age. So instead of trying to, buy, I don't want to say lower quality homes here in California, because I'm originally from here, I just chose to move over there to Arizona. I felt like there's more opportunity that presented itself, and I went for my, not just my goal or my dream, but again, a goal. I set up a plan on how I was going to get there, and I just went for it.
Average growth of a house every 5 years, isn't it? Property doubles every 20 years. Is it that, or
yes, but it depends on where it is that you stand. So I haven't owned a house for 5 years, but I'm 22 years old. I've had it for about 20 years. That's a pretty good question. If you can, reach out to a real estate agent to see if you guys can partner up with them and ask them that specific question, because they're the ones that mainly focus on that.
Well, if you have a bad credit score, find a partner with a good one. That's
the thing. You definitely have to have a decent credit score. I didn't have an abnormally high credit score, and I do want to tell you guys, this is the thing that I was really frustrated about, was I never opened a credit card, or really opened a credit card. I didn't get my first credit card till I think I was 19 or 20. So again, I bought my first house when I was 20, and it was within the last couple of months. No credit card would allow me to qualify for one. I had no credit. I never had bad or good or anything like that, right? So it was so difficult for me to open up a credit card, and I found that to be a really big, just frustrating drawback. How am I supposed to build my credit and not have it there? So something that I was exposed to was about a secured credit card. So you guys might want to see if your bank offers that. I know Chase does not. Bank of America does. So I opened a secured credit card. I paid my bill on time every single month for about 6 months, and then my credit score was at 7:30 or 7:40, something like that. So again, I just was consistent. I understood what it is that I needed to do, and then I just went for it. So I know that if you guys are watching this video, you guys have to understand that you guys are wanting to do something that's somewhat entrepreneurial, and you guys want something much greater in life. Create a plan on how you're gonna, make it happen, and then go for it.
How do you balance all this with school?
Yeah, that's the thing. I run a series of different. That's not. When it comes down to like, I am a full-time student, and I do have like a stable, normal job, right? Understanding that to qualify for my investment properties, and then I run a series of different businesses. I run my my properties as well, and I manage them all myself. I have a girlfriend, which I like to say because that's almost like a whole other job on itself. But guys, I'm truly like passionate about what it is that I do, and I just love surrounding myself with people that are like-minded and that love to work, and that's just my worth ethic. A lot of people just like making a large amount of money and then retiring, or are comfortable with maybe like 6 figures a year or $100,000 a year, and that's totally fine. I'm really just driven by the passion of of creating something or creating value for other people. So that's what my whole channel is drawn to, and that's why I love coming out of my way and meeting up with Tanner, because I know during this 2 days that I'm going to be spending with him, it's going to be an amazing experience, because I know I'm going to learn something new that which much later later down the road will allow me to take advantage of a certain opportunity because of the just knowledge that presented itself within this meetup. So I love working, I think.
Yeah. Have you ever dealt with evictions? If so, how?
Evictions, no. But I am thinking of making a video on a bad experience that I had with one of my tenants. But I don't have the whole thing set up, and it is one of the biggest drawbacks of having these rental properties when you present and you try to help out a certain individual, and then you see that they just try to take advantage of you. And people, regardless of if you're trying to go out of your way to make a deal happen, or to have them live in your house because of a certain agreement that you have with them, based on my experience, that's a huge red flag. And just if it's easy to work with, and these people are respectful and will pay on time, that's one of the biggest things. Just don't force someone to live in your house. Not force, but like try to make it happen and try to work with them, because with me and how busy I am, it's just going to be a waste of time. And that's all I can really share with them. Guys, we went to Chapada.
You can tell he goes to school because of his vocabulary. You making fun of me?
Wait, what is it?
You can tell he goes to college just because of his vocabulary.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Good thing.
Oh, okay.
About you. What are some things that can go wrong with investing in real estate?
Correction,
a lot
right?
of things.
Yeah, there's a lot of things. There could be something I guess I didn't talk about,
Need
like
a new roof.
Yeah, having criteria set when it comes down to investing in a investment property or a property itself. Making sure that when you're doing this inspection, that everything is, again, you have a certain period when you make a deal, and once it gets accepted, it's a certain period where an inspector's going to come check out the house. Make sure that you are in direct contact with them and making sure that you are aware of everything that's going on, because you don't want to buy a house you're going to have to dump a bunch of money into. Again, you're buying a house or you're buying an investment property to provide you with stable income, and it's something that you might want to be stress-free. And if there's going to be a bunch of problems or issues with it, that might not be the first approach that you want to take if you don't have the time to dedicate. So, Duck Deuces is saying, what part of Mexico are you from? I am Mexican. My last name is Ricky Gutierrez. I am full Mexican. My dad is from Aguascalientes, if you guys know where that is at. But I am not from Mexico. I was born here. But I appreciate you asking. I think you're a part of my group. That's funny. What's up?
He might be.
Yeah.
He's kind of new to mine, so.
Oh, okay.
Was first time investing hard?
It's just like everything else. When you invest in like Amazon, like it's always the beginning that I think this is actually the perfect example. When it comes down to investing in anything or being exposed to a new opportunity, it's always the beginning stages that are the most difficult. And just like yourself, now once you have a routine and you have these products that work and everything kind of just going in a cycle, right? So when it comes down to like Amazon sales, like affiliate marketing, trading, like investment properties, once you have a certain system set, it just becomes second nature. And it does take a lot of time to learn how it works, but once you have a certain system that works for you and you see value in it, then having a plan and going for it. So it is difficult to start out with, just like everything else when you're learning like a new concept in math, right? But once you understand it, it can become second nature, especially if you're driven by the passion that can come from it. So
Tanner's maturing. He's going from buying a Lamborghini to investment properties. Well, my Lamborghini has made me more than my investment property well over a couple years when I get one. So it's actually a great investment, and I couldn't invest in properties to begin with, and I still can't until January, unless they were super low value. We know that.
Which Tanner Fox do you like better, Ricky? I can personally say I relate with Tanner Fox much more. Tanner J. Fox, right? Tanner Fox was interesting to me just because of the type of character that he has, but I definitely enjoy spending time with Tanner J. Fox, if that can put it into perspective, right?
Do I have a money-back guarantee on my course? Yes, 30 days if you finish less than 50%. What made you start in real estate?
This is a really good question because a lot of people think, I think like as you're probably driving around in the Lamborghini car, but people are probably like, oh wow, like this guy, his dad or his parents must have bought it for him. And when I was working, I started my first company when I was 14, a very small company, and it started with a very small like amount of income, and it led to something again much greater, right? But it exposed me to the kind of like this entrepreneurial environment. So I saw the Fast and Furious movies. I wanted the Nissan GTR by like 18 or 20, so I knew the only way that I was going to get there was understanding that I had to do something creative that would at least provide me some stream of income, but as well as understand that I needed to have a stable source of income. So I always had a stable source of income. I always saved money, and I always looked for new avenues on how to make money. So when it came to like the buying and reselling of phones, like online sales, trading stocks, whatever it was, I always tried to find alternatives on just what the normal people were doing. So that's having a stable income and then working 2 or 3 times as hard to save money to therefore buy my dream car. When it came down to having enough money to buy my dream car, my dad gave me the guidance, instead of buying my car first, that I should invest in an investment, or buy my first house from there and then buy my car later, because again, I can rent out the rooms and then I can provide kind of like a stable income for myself. So I did not receive any financial help from my parents when it came down to like buying my house or anything like that. But when it came down to the exposure, I do have to pay a lot of that to my father for at least exposing me and guiding me in the right direction. And that's why I think it's so important, for channels like Tanner's and people like mine, and I don't want to say mine, but like people that like try to motivate one another, because it's regardless if you guys see value in like my channel or Tanner's content or his course, or regardless of what it is, it comes down to the understanding that you should only invest in what you guys see value in. And being exposed, there's nothing wrong with being exposed to new opportunities. So for all those that like hate and think that like, well, I don't like trading stocks and stocks aren't good, or I don't like online sales, it doesn't work, or regardless of what you think, we're just we're providing this content on YouTube, right, for free. It's exposure, and it comes down to, if you guys see value in it, then great. Create a plan on how you're gonna be successful, and then go for it. Because of my dad, I was exposed to this opportunity that I can buy a house first and then buy my GTR, and it allowed me, and it's because of where I am today that it was due to that guidance. So, right, guiding me in the right direction, but I made sure that I was the final decision maker because I saw value in what it is that he suggested.
I think you should have bought a Lambo first.
Dude.
All right, do you want to wrap it up here?
Yeah.
Let's see. Anything else? Do I trick shot in Black Ops 2? I used to. All right, we're getting Amazon again. We'll do an Amazon video tomorrow, guys. The update will be out later today. If you haven't already, go check out Ricky's channel. He's the first link in the description, and we're about to go live on your channel in a minute, right? On a different subject. So if you guys are interested, head over there, and we'll be live in a couple minutes.
Thank you guys again.